Hey, what's going on, GameLeapers? This is Coach Eags, and in today's upload, we're going to be talking about the 10 worst champions for the new patch 12.11, and you can probably bet that these champions are pretty bad in 12.10 as well. So for the next 5 days for 12.10, and for the next 2 weeks plus for 12.11 as well, you should probably stay away from these champions. Now, I'm not saying you can't win on them, but your chances of winning are a lot lower than if you were to pick one of the most broken champions who we talked about in yesterday's video, so I'd highly recommend checking that one out. And if you want to master, guys, any of the champions we mentioned in our videos, any of the roles, you have to go and check out the GameLeap website, linked down below in the description and comment section, because our challenger players and coaches upload so many videos a week for your benefit. These are made by the best to help you become one of the best too. So get that exclusive access by signing up, and let's get into the 10 worst champions for 12.11. Now, when I go through these champions, there's no real order here, so you guys in the comment section, you can make your own orders. You can tell me who you think the worst champion is going to be. I mean, if you don't say Rise, there's probably something wrong with you. But without further ado, let's get into the champions. So first of all, let's start by talking about Leona, who for the first 9 patches of Season 12 was a very popular pick in solo queue and pro play and boasted very solid win rates, but now her win rate overall is around 47-48%, and the reason for this is how the meta has actually changed. So because it's gone into a more durable meta, an all-in engage one-shot support like Leona, she is going to be a lot less effective, because when you do go in these days, because there is less damage in the game and there's more tankiness, your full combo does not lead to a kill. It might lead to someone getting kind of low, but after that initial engage, you're on cooldown. You don't have anything to fight back, so that Kog'Maw Lulu you're jumping onto, they can just retaliate and you go boom. Also in team fights, unless you land a 5-man ultimate, you're going to be pretty useless as well, and if you are just going to sit back and peel your AD carry, well, you might as well play one of these meta supports like a Lulu, a Yuumi, something like this that scales incredibly well. So Leona in 12.11 as well as 12.10 going to be a pretty bad champ to pick. Now we'll stay in the bot lane for this next champion, and this is a champion, an AD carry, who would really appreciate a Leona as their support, this being Kai'Sa. And the reason Kai'Sa is actually bad at the moment, well, think about it. How does Kai'Sa work? Like, what are her best pairings in the bot lane? Well, it's with these hard engaged CC supports, because this activates her passive and also her ultimate, so she can dive in. She pairs so well with Leona, with Nautilus, with Alistar, with Rel, but these champions are just worse because they're engaged in their initial burst damage, because this is what these supports have. Leona, Alistar, Rel, they hit very hard very quickly, but because this is largely nullified these days, Kai'Sa is as well. And if you were to pick something like a Nami or a Lulu, Sona, Soraka with a Kai'Sa, this synergy is just nowhere near as strong compared to something like Lulu Kog'Maw, Renata Lucian, one of these very powerful combinations at the moment. And we should probably also mention here that Kraken Slayer is getting nerfed in 12.11, so if you are playing Kai'Sa, you're more likely than not going to have to go Gale Force, which has a longer cooldown these days, but for Kraken Slayer, the bonus true damage, the actual base damage of this is down by 10, and it's scaling less off your bonus AD and less scaling for a champion like Kai'Sa. When you compare this to a champion like Kog'Maw or Ashe, you are going to be more worse off. Now, a bit like Kai'Sa, let's head into the jungle here and talk about a champion who would really appreciate, just like Kai'Sa, a bit of CC and setup on her team, this being Evelynn. And for Evelynn in 12.10 and 12.11 as well, even though you scale very well, the meta is just not favorable. And let's try to figure this out. So if you're playing Evelynn, why is she not good? Well, what type of damage does Evelynn boast? This is burst damage, right? It's not like DPS like an Azir. It's not a Conqueror lethal tempo champion. This is electrocute, one combo, 100 to 0, boom. But the booms aren't happening nearly as much because champions are tankier, and the peeling supports in the game that are strong, they can peel you very, very easily. But one item change that might help Evelynn out a little bit in 12.11 is the change coming to Rocket Belt. So what Riot are doing, they are buffing the magic penetration you get from the item from 6 to 10. Now, this increase in magic penetration, the reason they're doing this is because Rocket Belt users, who pretty much all the time are going to be burst damage based, well, they're just really underperforming. So this buff, will it change Evelynn's 47% win rate in pretty much every single elo? Well, probably not. So this is why Evelynn has to be on the countdown for 12.11's worst champions. Now, moving on, let's head to the mid lane, and again, we're going to talk about one of these champions who will benefit from this Rocket Belt buff, and this is Akali. So for Akali in the mid lane, you are a burst damage champion. Even though you might run Conqueror in most matchups, the point is going Sorcerer's Shoes, going Rocket Belt, going Shadow Flame, going Zhonya's, going Deathcap, Void Staff, all of these items, because they revolve around that burst damage, they just aren't as good as they were before. Even if you're picking Akali to counter an immobile mage, maybe like Orianna, there's just too big a difference between the power levels of these champions to even make Akali a good counter pick at the moment, and that's the real struggle. There's pretty much no good game to pick her in, because the only games you make Akali or an Evelynn work in are the games when you're 10-0. You have to snowball harder than ever before, and getting to that snowballing point is very difficult at the moment and will continue to be very difficult in 12.11. 12-11. And if you guys play any of these champions, guys, let me know in the comment section what changes you might like to see to your champions to maybe make them viable. Now, moving on, we're going to stay in the mid lane for this next pick, and this is a champion who's actually getting buffed in 12-11, this being Ryze. And to be honest, if Riot changed Ryze to a red color, it'd probably do more, because this change is going to do nothing, and it might look kind of nice, like your E's damage is scaling more of your AP, and your E's mana cost is going down as well, especially at later ranks. But Everfrost is getting nerfed. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the slow or stun duration is going down by half a second, from 1.5 to 1 second. Can you imagine a champion with Merc Treads? You're not going to lock them down at all, and it's really important as well, your Everfrost, for your self-peel. In the mid lane, whether you're side laning, you are just, at the moment, and in 12-11, you are going to be the most killable champion in the game. You don't hit anywhere near hard enough to compete with the other mid laners, so Ryze in our tier list is going to continue to have his own tier, because he will still be that bad, and Ryze mains, I legit feel for you, it's quite depressing to think about. Now, another champion who's kind of depressing to think about, if we head to the top lane for a second, this is Kennen. And what does Kennen have in common with all of the champions we've mentioned in this video? Well, think about it. Burst damage, electrocute, rocket belt, soul shoes. This is Kennen's identity, and if his playstyle, if his identity isn't effective in the meta, the champion isn't as good. And because there's only one indirect buff coming to Kennen in 12-11, that being a rocket belt, is the champion going to increase his power level? Definitely not. He will still be very bad, even if he's a great counter pick to most top laners. It doesn't really matter. He will get outscaled in team fights as well against peeling supports like Lulu and Janna, who you see a lot of the time. He is just way too ineffective in pretty much every aspect of the game, so Kennen is another really bad champion you should probably stay away from in 12-11. Now, we've got 4 more champions to talk about, guys, so let's head back into the jungle for this one and talk about Hecarim. Now, Hecarim was incredibly powerful in the early going of Season 12, but ever since the Turbo Chem Tank Muramana build got nerfed, he's really been struggling. Even if the balance team have given him a couple of buffs to encourage you guys to go attack damage Hecarim, these really haven't done anything, and his win rate is still around 47%, like lots of champions on this countdown. And next patch, because Death's Dance is getting nerfed, Mormal Mortius is getting nerfed, it's going to be even worse for it. But what might be kind of interesting here is that Balmy Cinder is getting buffed, so the cost is going to 1,000 from 1,100, so a 100 gold decrease, and Turbo Chem Tank is getting buffed in terms of the HP. It's going from 350 to 450, and then we also have to consider the Steris Gauge buff as well, which might actually be cool for Hecarim in 12-11. And any Hecarim mains, let me know what you think of these build ideas. But Steris Gauge, because the shield is going to scale off your bonus HP more of it, and because Turbo Chem Tank is giving you a whopping 100 more HP, this could be the way to go. It's just the Steris Gauge in a non-burst meta, it's probably going to be bad still, and this is why Hecarim is on this countdown, but it might make Hecarim a little bit better, but still he's so bad at the moment that he has to be in this countdown. Now, this next champion, guys, I reckon you can figure out who this is, so I'm going to mention a few clues, and let's see if you can guess it. So this champion is a bursty mid laner, and like a lot of other champions on this countdown, she loves to go Sorcerer Shoes, she loves to go Electrocute, but if the meta is around durability, and it's not about burst damage, it's about sustained damage, she could be one of the worst champions to pick. Well, this champion, congratulations if you got it, those clues weren't really that great, but this is LeBlanc, and the reason LeBlanc is struggling is, yeah, just because she's a burst champion, right? She's not going to enjoy a meta where champions are harder to kill, harder to burst down. This means less kills, and for a champion who is kind of snowbally, you know, she might get outscaled by other champions in the mid lane. It's very important for her that the meta suits her, and because you go Luden's Tempest, you're not really going to benefit from Rocket Belt or Crown, even that getting buffed, so the AP going from 60 to 70, not really going to mean anything. Like, you could think about playing utility LeBlanc, where you build Everfrost maybe, but Everfrost is getting nerfed, and if you are playing utility LeBlanc, you might as well play another mid laner like a Galio, Twisted Fate, something like this. That's actually their identity. So LeBlanc, another champion who really isn't doing well, again, another 47% win rate champ, so she has to be in this video. Now, the next champion we're going to mention, you guys won't believe this, but it is another quick damage burst 100 to 0 champion, this being Nidalee. And even in high reloads, right, even in like Challenger Elo at the moment, where Nidalee normally performs really well, players have the skill set to abuse this champion's power. Well, at the moment, she really has no power innately, so even if you are extremely good at Nidalee, you're a one-trick pony, you have all the mechanics in the world, and like I said before, the problem is this: even if you're 5-0, it doesn't mean you're going to win, because you get outscaled by pretty much everything in the game. You need to win games by 10-15 minutes, and guess what? Games are typically longer at the moment. They will continue to be long in 12-11, especially with tank items getting buffed, so how is Nidalee going to be any better in 12-11? Rocket Belt, you might be getting more magic penetration, and it is kind of close to doubling in terms of its magic penetration power, but this is not going to give you the offensive power you need to win games quickly. So Nidalee is another champion who you're not going to have a great chance of winning on, just like the final champion on this countdown, guys, this being Xayah. And just like I mentioned for Kai'Sa, right, Xayah is a champion who loves it when her support has CC. This means she can land her feathers and then pull them back and root the enemy champion. And think about Xayah as well in terms of her ultimate. Why is her ultimate really good? Even though it's on kind of a long cooldown, it's good because it's amazing against engaged champions. So when a J4 is jumping on your head, when a LeBlanc is jumping on your head, these champions are useless. So this means that Xayah's value actually goes down as well. Like, what are you going to use your ultimate for? A Cogmore auto attack? Like, it's completely pointless. And because her build doesn't really make sense at the moment, like, do you go lethality? Well, no, because it's been nerfed way too much. Do you go attack speed? Well, if you're going attack speed, you might as well go another champion who's a lot better. So Xayah is really stuck in the mud. That's going to be the case in 12-11 as well. And those were the 10 worst champions, guys, for 12-11. Let me know in the comment section if you agree, disagree, any other champions we should have mentioned. Let me know down below. And if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like as well. And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been Coach Cheeks. Peace.